Do you want to talk? You're feeling you're more exasperated than I am. We're fresh off the reading the article, so
it's just so disgusting and everyone's horrible. So yeah, I'll talk first.
Okay.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Gay Matt. It's Matt Palmer.
And it's Matt Steele.
And okay. There was an article that came out in The Atlantic this week. Was it a day ago, 2 days ago?
It was like 2 days ago.
2 days ago? Okay. Well, Bryan Singer, it's been kind of an open secret that this director who began directing Bohemian Rhapsody, I don't think he finished.
He was fired a ways into filming, basically.
Well, he also did some X-Men movies, The Usual Suspects, and like when the Harvey Weinstein came out and it was like, oh, Harvey Weinstein's been like raping these actresses. It's like, oh, wonder when the Bryan Singer article's coming out.
It was very much that.
It was the first thing, if you were a gay person or a person that like knew anything about Bryan Singer besides like some movies, that was one of the first things that I thought of. And honestly, it took much longer for this article to come out. They said that they had been interviewing people for a year and it was going to come out, I think, in Esquire, but then they changed it.
They had been interviewing people for a year?
Yes, that was a part of the thing.
Ooh, that's some research. That's some thorough research. The stories of, Bryan Singer and the rumors of Bryan Singer have been happening for years.
Yes.
I remember being like a teenager and like hearing this kind of stuff. Like being a young person and hearing this kind of stuff and being like, oh yeah, maybe just rumors, who knows, blah, 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 blah. But then as the years go on, you hear more and more of these stories. The Harvey Weinstein thing came out and, the Woody Allen stuff and everything. Especially like a person who's, living in LA and like trying to make it in the industry, and like either one of our industries, you realize like, oh no, those people really are out there, and so accusations like this like should be taken seriously. And it's good that they spent a year doing this because you want to get the facts as clear and clean as possible. But this article was a long article.
It's
there were like, so many stories.
Oh my god, there's so many stories. There are a million terrible things about it. Obviously, the depictions of the assault. Some people said that they were forcibly raped. Some people were more drugged and taken advantage of.
The weirdest part of the article for me was when it talked about how guys who, he wasn't necessarily into, or guys who weren't even gay, would get into Bryan Singer's good graces by like bringing guys
and
to
honestly, there are obviously these people that we're going to be discussing are themselves monsters, but it's like those people around them who are facilitating and like targeting young people who clearly don't have close family connections close by, and they are like easily manipulated because they're children. And it's like, if you are involved at all at passing along a person for these people to rape, period, you are disgusting and are as much trash as they are. This is so revolting, and like what you read about what's happened to these victims' lives, and they all are like, there's a very similar theme in a lot of their stories, and that's like, this was the thing that changed everything for me. Like that guy that was on set of that Ian McKellen movie he raped me on set, and then after that my grades went down, I stopped going to class, I got kicked out of school. His life turned into a complete fucking disaster. Some people have pulled themselves out of it, have gotten sober, but some people are still struggling because this kind of trauma is ruining people's lives. And like they get tossed aside when, one of the people said like, oh, when I got into my 20s he became less interested in me.
That's sort of what sexual predators sort of prey upon. Yes. They can sense any sort of insecurity, any sort of loneliness or feelings of being lost or whatever, and that's what they prey upon.
It's just like, if you are a vulnerable underage person, they are going to target you.
Exactly, yeah, which only just makes you feel more horrible about yourself, which leads your life into an even more downward spiral. I feel like in every single story, and there were many, I don't even remember how many there were, in every single section of the article that spoke about a different boy, each had a reference saying like, we spoke to a lot of people who said, yes, this was the layout of his house, this was what the car he drove, this story happened on set, this is what the set looked like, this is what happened. So there were references for every single story.
There were, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the time that went into it. It does kind of bother me. It bothers me that we have to have like, oh, and we've gotten all these fucking checkpoints to say that this person isn't lying. Like, most victims of sexual assault are not lying. Like, just statistically. And I get why they had to do it. You don't want it to be a willy-nilly kind of article. I understand it, but it's just gross to me that in the society we live in, we are more likely to believe that someone has been robbed at gunpoint. No one's saying, well, did you really get robbed at gunpoint? There are minimal, if you look at the percentages, minimal victims, alleged people are lying, but the number is so insanely small. But I understand from a journalistic perspective why they had to do that.
Well, not just from a journalistic perspective, but it also gives you an idea that, like, oh, when this is all, like, brought to court or whatever, like, they have these
I mean, you hope so, but there was one part of the article that was like, a lot of people, like Bryan Singer's stature, when they get these victims on the stand, if there's like a minuscule deviation from the story, then that'll be the whole thing to sink the whole ship. And it's like, well, of course, they've been traumatized. They've been suppressing this for years. Like, not every single detail is going to be spot on.
Not even the trauma part of it. Like, literally any part of your life in your past. Do you remember every single detail? Like, oh my God, literally, I got into a car accident a month ago, and and it wasn't my fault. And when I was talking to the insurance person, they were just like, okay, now, were you in the right lane or the left lane? I was just like, oh God, I don't know.
It's
hard.
It's horrible. And I would hope, I don't think anyone's defending Bryan Singer at this moment.
Literally no one.
Right, okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
that is my hope, because that's one thing about the R. Kelly thing. I watched Surviving R. Kelly recently, and Matt Steele could hear me watching it.
Yes,
I'm vocally very fucking upset, because just seeing all these survivors tell their stories, and to have people still defending him, cough, cough, Taraji P. Henson in our Instagram stories. I understand, like, that people do come after black people unfairly a lot of the time. So I understand that. R. Kelly's a monster, whether he is black or white or whatever the fuck he is. And also, his victims are black girls, so who are you really standing up for when you're like, oh, well, I mean, who knows if they're telling the truth? You mean all the, like, 50 accusers in this documentary who are describing the same thing and predatory behavior that makes sense? Maybe they're telling the fucking truth.
And the R. Kelly stuff, like, that's literally been known since the 90s. Yes. Like, it's not even the 2000s, like, the 90s.
And it's like,
it's just like, no, at this point, no. Like, no. And there's nothing else.
If you watch that fucking documentary and you see, like, the people, there's a girl who's like, I met him because I was a crazy R. Kelly fan when I was a teenager, and I would show up to court to support him with signs, and that's where he picked me out to bring me into his fucking sex cult ring thing. He's so blatant. Like, you listen back, Aaliyah's first album was called Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, and it's about how she wants to have sex with a grown man, and she was 14 and secretly married to R. Kelly at this point.
And he wrote it for her.
It's just like he's hiding in plain sight, and it took us this long to be like, hey, fuck this guy, and the people, his victims are more important than the fact that, like, I Believe I Can Fly is a nice song. Like, I don't need that. I don't need I Believe I Can Fly, I don't need anything he's a part of. The fact that it just took us all so long, because like you said, we knew about R. Kelly in the 90s.
It took an entire viral documentary series to bring the R. Kelly.
It's like, you would think
so weird
that the tape of him peeing on an underage girl would have been enough, but no, it was just sold as porn in, like, barbershops, and it's just, it makes me so pissed, because I feel like, much like Beyonce says in Lemonade, the most disrespected person on earth is the black woman, and the fact that no one is defending Bryan Singer and that people are still defending R. Kelly is, to me, because their victims fit different demographics. If R. Kelly's victims were young white boys, he would have been completely off the radar years ago. But the fact that these are black girls growing into black women, it's just like, well, I mean, what? They look adult to me. And one of the jurors was on this, and he said, I voted that R. Kelly was not guilty because I didn't like the way that his accusers looked. Their clothes were too tight. And it's just like, the world is a horrible place, and I mean, I don't, this is usually a positive channel, I'm sorry, but these are just important things that have been on my mind, and, like, really something that I wanted to talk about, because I don't know how we got here.
Have you ever, after I graduated college and I was coming into the world, as, like, a gay male adult, did you ever became friends with guys who would tell you that their first boyfriends were, they met online, and they were, like, 16, and I had so many guy friends who would tell me, like, oh yeah, my first boyfriend was when I was 16 and he was 36, and I just remember being like, I just remember being, like, gobsmacked, and how it seemed, like, so normal for them, and it's just so disgusting how there are people out there in the world who prey upon other young people just because they know that these young people, especially if they are young gay boys who don't have anyone to turn to, they know it's like they're looking for that. They're looking for their first romantic interaction. They're looking for someone to look up to. And the R. Kelly stuff, like a bunch of these girls wanted to be singers. And R. Kelly was like, well, I'll take you under my wing. And their parents were just like, yeah.
Girls were found after that, and they were like, the parents were like, well, he was acquitted, so yeah, I sent her along with him to audition. It's like, this is insane. He was just like going back to his high school and sitting in the parking lot and finding girls. He was sitting in a group of guys at a McDonald's seeing who was ordering Happy Meals. Just like, this is crazy how in plain sight he was doing all of this. I don't know what to do here, but it's just, I just had to get it off my chest.
Yeah,
because
we weren't going to talk about the R. Kelly thing because we were like, oh, it came out like too late. We were on vacation when it happened and everything. But then this Bryan Singer article came out.
And then Taraji P.
And then
Taraji was like, well, what about Harvey Weinstein? It's like, bitch, Harvey Weinstein's career is over and he's going to trial. Like, something's happening with him. His life is in shambles. His company is nothing. Like, people probably still watch those Weinstein Company movies, but the Weinstein Company is no more. The argument for being like, oh, well, R. Kelly, well, he was traumatized. He was sexually assaulted as a child. Like, why don't we feel bad for him? And it's like, that is a bad thing that happened to him, but he has all the resources to go get help. He could go get therapy. He could work this out, but instead, he is inflicting that trauma on a million other young people just because it's not that he wants to have, it's like maybe he's just sexually attracted to young girls, but beyond that, he wants to feel the power of it all. I don't want to be giving R. Kelly a stream. I don't want to give him a half of a cent of my dollar on Spotify for him to continue what he is doing. There are still women traveling around with him that haven't seen their parents in years, and their parents on the documentary are like, I just want to see my daughter.
Like the women who are just like screaming up in the windows, like for their daughters to just like shout back down to them to give them a sign that they're okay.
How do you become more brainwashed than being completely alienated from your family and from everyone you know? It's like, then R. Kelly can be like, I'm the only one who loves you. Where else are you gonna go? No one else loves you. And it's like, I don't want to any part of that. Stop supporting this person monetarily. I don't care how much you love his music. What he is doing with the money you'd be giving him is horrible. I won't do it. It's 2019. I'm not fucking doing it. I don't have to be transnihil. I don't have to be forgiving. I'm not God. I'm not Jesus. Fuck you forever. Fuck you forever. I'm done.
Those are Matt Palmer's thoughts.
These are all of our thoughts.
He is not God.
I am not God. Sorry about it. Any other comments?
I think you said them out. I think you expressed yourself well.
It's sickening, but thank you for watching. We'll get it back up to light next week, but it's just something we need to discuss. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, Matt Palmer Music.
That's Matt Steele.
Follow us both at 2GayMats for an extra bonus video. You can follow our Patreon, patreon.com/2GayMats. We have 30 bonus videos waiting for you, one every week. And we just put up a fun Janet Jackson music video reaction. Showed Matt Steele a bunch of great ones. You're gonna love it. He loved it.
Thank you to Adam Parnell.
Thank you to Adam Parnell.
Our iconic patron.
Iconic. We love you. Don't listen to R. Kelly. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye, R. Kelly.